Okay, first of all, I want to thank you all for coming today and allowing me to give my speech. I just want to start off by saying, have you guys ever realized that you might be using your phones on a daily use for educational purposes and you might not notice it? Oftentimes, we find ourselves relying on the internet to help us with our daily tasks. Or for some of us that are students, we rely on the internet every day for these smartphones. There are many routines that we follow outside of the educational environment that involve the use of smartphones due to the modern society that we live in. I know that when I want to figure out what the weather is going to be like before I head out for work, I simply just pull up my smartphone, and my smartphone can provide me that information that I need. The reason why this is vital is because the education system has been transitioning into technology more over time. This requires that everyone should practice the use of these new devices, which are the smartphones that I'm talking about, because it will change how future generations will learn. The world that we live in is relying on the proper education that younger generation receive, and the use of these smartphones is vital because these younger generations are using these smartphones. And in order to keep these trees alive, smartphones actually play a key role in giving back to the environment, which I'll explain later on. But smartphones are actually a necessity to the environment because they prevent the use of our natural resource, trees, from going abundant. And there are three main statements that I want to make today as to why smartphones are proved to be good usage among the educational environment. And these 3 points are: the first one I want to talk about is how the importance of these smartphones are they contribute towards education and the health of the environment itself. The second point I want to talk about is how many teachers in the education system are actually already using these smartphones and incorporating to their class teachings, which is good to show that the smartphones are actually being used already for education. And my last point I want to make is how smartphones have allowed students to participate in social learning because there are different forms of learning, and each student has their individualized way in which they learn. And it's very important that smartphones allow students to involve themselves in social learning. So, jumping straight into the importance of how these smartphones contribute towards the environment, the health environment, and education itself. Smartphone site phones have actually been combating against deforestation over a long period of time in order to save the natural environment on Earth. And the way they've been doing that is according to a blog by Cassie Torrey that she published on the Rainforest Partnership. Recycled smartphones are actually literally being used from the environment, meaning there's a conservationist, and his name is Topher White, and he has created this app where he takes a whole bunch of recyclable smartphones, and he uses recorded audio on the smartphones in order to track illegal loggers inside the forest. So what happened is the audio that is picked up from those recyclable smartphones is then fed back off to the park rangers, and that way they're aware of where illegal logging is going to happen. And illegal logging is basically the cutting down of trees, which is illegal because it harms the environment unless if it's put in action by the government. Most of this research done was because of Casey Torrey, because he was the one that came up with the invention of the app in order to recycle these smartphones. And the energy that is actually produced by the sun is what actually powers these smartphones to pick up the audio to record the illegal loggers. And he actually gave the name of these smartphones. He called them the Guardian phones. Another statement that I want to make how they contribute back to the environment is tablets have actually become the new smartphones. They also become like the new textbooks of classes, and they've been used in exchange to save the environment from the use of printing, so that way we don't have to use up trees as well. So that's another way how phones have contributed to the environment, how they basically carried on with the idea of tablets from smartphones, and then they're incorporating textbooks instead of physical papers into those tablets. Now that we're going through our first part, the second part that I want to make is how teachers are already using these smartphones in classes. So it's going to be very easy for the youth to adapt to them. And according to information presented by Edward Graham, his article published by the National Education Association speaks upon a 22-year-old teaching veteran by the name of Ken Hala, who has actually added these smartphones into his teachings in his class. He has discovered that if teachers eliminate the idea of front class lectures, then teachers could be more involved with their students. Basically saying if teachers could refrain from the idea that they would teach in front of the class, they could actually go around and investigate students who are properly using the smartphones, because that is one conflict that teachers have against with these smartphones. They think that they're not properly being used by their students because they have many other features on them. But Ken Hala believes if the teachers eliminate this idea of front lectures, then they can easily resolve this conflict. And there's a great app that smartphones allow students to use. It's called Remind 101, which is another app that Ken Hala has been using. I got this information from the National Education Association, and this app basically it just lets students, it reminds students on their smartphones of when upcoming assignments are due. And students also gain the access of receiving tests and quizzes in various formats through polleverywhere.com. Polleverywhere.com is a website discovered by Ken Hala here, and it's actually a website in which students are given questions and they can answer those questions on their smartphones, and then at the end of that poll there's a graph that comes up on top of the phone and gives them the results of their tests and quizzes, which basically helps students in their upcoming assignments and if they want to try in a new different format through smartphones. And the last point I want to make today is that research has shown over time that all students gain information in a different way. And this is very important because smartphones actually allow social learning. And social learning is one of the many other few methods that education revolves around. Meaning there are different forms of education. Some students are concrete learners, some of them learn through visual, some of them learn through audio learners. So there are all types of different learners, which in this situation with smartphones, they contribute to social learners. They allow that to happen. I did my research to an article by Kip Bentley, who published for the Center of Digital Education. And he actually has these social media apps on smartphones that allow students to learn in a different way. And these social media apps, such as Twitter, allow students to engage with classmates and teachers. So that allows students to learn in a different style through social learning with other teachers and students instead of having just individual learning. Most of this research I discovered in the Center for Digital Education. There are many resources online where teachers can create their own discussion forums for students. Like, for example, me right now, I'm in college right now, and teachers actually use things called the discussion board, where students could post their own personal thoughts and opinions towards assignments in the class, so the whole class could collaborate as a whole. And another way that their social learning is through photos, videos, and audio recordings. Those are all just new ways in which social learning has been brought out through these smartphones. Research has shown that there's been many various styles of learning that can be utilized in these different styles through these smartphones. According to the University of Kansas, visual style learners learn through graphic images because they learn visually, and there are also people who learn auditory learners. Auditory learners are people who just learn through audio or through videos that are being spoken or whatsoever. So first, I explained the importance and contribution that smartphones has towards the environment and towards the education system itself. Next, I talked about how teachers are incorporating these smartphones already into their class. And finally, I explained the various styles of learning and how smartphones are contributing to social learning. These three motivators are the main factors as to why smartphones are great contributors to educational environments, and they should be allowed. If you take time to learn about the benefits of smartphones in the education system, then maybe you can find smartphones useful in your next learning session if you are a current student, or if you find yourself in need of using a smartphone, you might find yourself next time doing it for an educational purpose. And that's my speech, and thank you.
Okay.
I don't know how long that was.